Now that you have set up PHPMyAdmin, you need to know how to use it. First of all, after you log in, you'll see a screen similar to what you see here. On the left-hand side, you have the basic navigation. The home button returns to the initial login page. The exit button logs you out of the administration, requiring you to log back in. The SQL button pops up a window for you to enter in SQL statements to run. The question mark icon opens up documentation in a new window. And the SQL button here actually pops up the MySQL documentation in a new window. So those are some pretty handy references to have. Directly underneath all this, we'll have either a drop-down listing of all the databases that you have access to, or if there are only one, as we see here, you're going to get a listing of that database and all of its tables, which again in this case we only have one. If you have access to more than one database, you must select the database to work in. Let me show you how that works. So here we see we have a drop-down selection of databases. We're going to select Real World PHP Programming, and you can see that now we're shown the tables that we have available in that database. Once we have that database selected, we can actually begin to create tables. If you already have the SQL done for the Create Table statement, you could select the SQL button and paste that right in there. However, if you don't yet have the statement written, you can also create a new table using the PHPMyAdmin interface. Using this interface here, first of all, we're going to select a name for our table. Let's call it temp. Let's say that we want it to have 3 fields. Then we get the next step. Here we'd enter our field name, field 1, select the type that we want it to be, any additional length or values that we need, and any other attributes such as unsigned, whether it's null or not, which you can look up what that actually means, default values, so if you don't fill out any values for that field, what the default value will be, and any other extras such as our auto increment. Field 2 we'll make into an int, unsigned, and finally our field 3 we'll make a timestamp field. So word of warning here before we go any further. Don't think that this is going to replace the need to know MySQL syntax. This is simply an interface for accessing the data. You'll need to know how to be able to access and manipulate the data from within your own PHP scripts. PHPMyAdmin is not going to help you with that. So once we have a table or two actually set up, we can access that table to select or insert or update data in it. First, we select the table that we want to work with. The default view here that we have is our table structure. We can work with the table structure here, editing or deleting specific columns. But if you want to see all of the rows in your table, then we can select the Browse link up at the top here. This is going to show you all of the rows that we have in the table. By default, 30 at a time starting from record number 0 or 1. You can modify that to show as many rows as you want starting from whatever record that you would like. To select a group of rows, we can also use the search up here. So if we only want to see customer ID 2, then we have customer ID 2. So when looking at the listing of a row, we can select to edit or delete rows using these two icons on the left, edit and delete. If we don't have a primary key, then in place of these two edit and delete icons, you're actually going to get question marks. And in order to work with that table, you'll have to use the selection button here, the checkbox, and the edit and delete down at the bottom. Finally, to insert data into a table, we use the insert link up at the top. We can fill out data for each of our columns here. Remember that if we have an auto increment field like we do here in the customer info, we just want to leave that blank. Because if you don't leave that blank, it will cause problems inserting data into your table. So just let the database do the work on the columns that are set to fill out automatically. This is the absolute basics of PHPMyAdmin. There is, of course, as you can see just from the links across the top, a lot more that you can do with it. But for our purposes, this gives you a basic idea of how to manage your MySQL databases and tables using this great program. In the next chapter, we're actually going to explore using MySQL functions that PHP provides to manage our MySQL databases.